This is fine as a tanky furia build. It's pretty widely run. If you wanted to play around with loadouts, and I'm not saying you have to at all because, again, this is fine, but in case you want to experiment, you could take 1 to 2 points out of somewhere between Burning Oath, Light of Dawn, and Incandescent Being, and trying to run some higher beam radius. Replace Light Forge. I'm not huge into having just constant beams because I find that I don't need them. I tend to save my beams a little bit more than you do, so that might be why. But anyways, that's just I find beam radius really helpful. I get guaranteed stuns off of them. So in terms of your actual gameplay, I actually think you heal really well. Your heal prio is actually really good too. There's only maybe like a couple of times in the game where I thought, you probably should have healed some other person other than that one person that you chose to heal in the end. But that's really nothing. Like that happens all the time. And then a couple of times I think you meant to heal someone, but auto heal shenanigans went onto the wrong person. Point is, your healing is good. The two biggest problems I saw were one, you put yourself in bad positions sometimes. So you die more than you have to. And that I don't know if that cost you the game because it's really hard to say, but that definitely had an impact on how this game went, especially at the beginning of rounds. So at the beginning of every round, I'll point out like I wouldn't have done this or I wouldn't have been here, yada yada. So just pay particular attention to where you are and what you choose to do at the beginning of each round, because at the beginning of each round is when your team got slaughtered every single round. And then secondly, this isn't, I wouldn't say this is critical to being a good Furia player, but it definitely helps. Which and what I mean by this is all the other things Furia does. So the stuns off the beam, and also who you're choosing to left click. Sometimes you are left clicking tanks when you should be left clicking squishies. I'll point those out too. It's never really a bad thing to just be doing extra damage to tanks. But again, there were just times when squishies needed to die and you could have shot them. They were right next to the tanks that you were shooting. And also your beams, you kind of just spam them a little bit without thinking about it too much. Sometimes it's not that much value if you just spam them kind of semi-blindly and just hope that they land somewhere. It's just not going to have that much of an impact on the game overall. And if you can land higher value stuns and confirm better, like higher value damage on targets, then I think you'll up your Furia gameplay in addition to positioning better. So whatever, let's start. No, that's not the key. Oh, that is the key. Okay.
It's party time.
So again, beginning of the round, pay attention. So you're on the left side, which is fine. Your team is mostly here, great. Sometimes the fight on this map will just happen on the high ground over here. A lot of people will try to contest it, but you guys went here. There's no one here, so you know that the left side is, pretty safe. So that's like the first negative information you should know this game. So that beam, I don't know if you just missed, but you could have aimed it a little bit more, just a little bit longer. You could have stunned the Inara or the Cassie behind her, but it kind of goes through them. Also, that was the very first action that you chose to do this game, and I don't understand why. You just don't, like, your beam kind of goes through the middle of the point. It's not really aimed at anyone. It doesn't look like it is anyways. And yeah, there's just no point to like the first thing you do. And I think you do this like every time you get off your mat. The first thing you do is beam, and it doesn't really land anywhere. Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but maybe because you were beaming and then looking at Barrick and left clicking and trying to right click him, you didn't notice the Ramen and Andy on the right side. But that's something you should always watch out for, because you guys went left. You know that's safe. Where do you think the rest of their team is, right? If you can't see them in front of you, they're probably coming from the right side. So again, if you choose to dismount on the left, fine, but you have to watch out for the opposite side, which is the right side. So the fact that you used mobility, I know why you did that. You got walled off. You wanted line of sight on Barrack / Con / whatever the point in general. But that was just the fact that you went to the bad side. Like, this was the only bad side probably. Like, if you'd gone straight back, that was fine. That would have been fine. If you went on the other side, this rock here even, a little bit onto their side, but still, hugging this rock and using it for cover, that would have been still better than what you did. And then on top of that, you use mobility to do it. So now you're really stuck here. So you're, like, at this point, no matter what happens, you're dead. Even if both tanks peel for you, you are dead. This is too early game for tanks to, like, kill Rom. That was just because you did not watch the flank, and you went to the really bad side. So at that point, they already have half on point, and I'm not sure what can be done about this point fight. I guess that's a good pick. I don't know if your tank's gonna touch. I can't remember. Oh, okay. And your team cleaned up because they overzoned, but they had already capped so much, and they zoned long enough. They kept you guys on the zone long enough that it didn't matter. You really like to do, I wouldn't call this super long range beams, but to hit that beam is a bit tough. Like, this is typically the distance you like to aim your beams. And again, it didn't hit. If you wanted to try this and you knew that she was going to go through here, try to lead it a little bit. I would have thrown it this way instead of this way, and you might have hit her. I'm not sure what that would have done. This is like a fadeaway beam. It's honestly kind of useless. So you see how Inara is like, okay, I'm going to retreat, but now I'm good, so now I'm going to try to make my way back again. Even if you toss the beam now, that would still be a better beam, I think. At least it keeps her there, or like it makes her have to back out a little bit. It's not a big deal either way. That beam didn't really go anywhere. I'm not sure if you were aiming it for the tunnel, that would have been fine, but it was right of the tunnel, and there was just no one where you were aiming it. You just took a shot from Cassie, and you just stand here, like you see her perfectly clearly, which means she can see you perfectly clearly, and you just keep standing here in her line of sight. Either back all the way out, or if you want to stay at this whatever axis, you could play from behind here. That's better than staying there and hoping she doesn't shoot you. I think you took another shot from her, and another, and another. You're very lucky you did not die there. That beam was a little bit to the left. I'm not sure if you might need to just take an extra half a second. I think when I first started playing Cherish, I kind of had the same issue where I wasn't aiming it long enough, and so it would just be a smidgen off every time. it looks like that might be what's happening to you. But just take a half a second, really think about where Inara is going, not where she was a second ago. At this point, you are so caught out, it doesn't matter. Because you, remember when you were taking Cassie shots, you were like right behind the con, and then she picked Maeve, and then you guys didn't back out fast enough. Yeah, and you're like, I know you said other, like, you recognize that you were just stuck on walls a lot. That's just the overall positioning where you know where you are, but you need to think more about if you get pushed, A, from which direction you're likely to get pushed from, and B, what your exit strategy is. So a lot of the times you get caught out because you're not thinking about either of those. In this case, you just need to back out much earlier. I would have been behind this rock and then like come back like 5 seconds earlier. I'm not sure you would have made it out, but more of a chance to. It would have been less awkward. You wouldn't have been stuck on a wall. I mean, you dying there is not a big deal because your team got wiped, so it's better that you died there with your team. So there would have healed the Maeve instead of the Barrack. I don't know if that was a misclick or intentional. But you heal her after that, so it's fine. You're a little bit forward. Like, you kind of peek all of them and take no damage, which is a little sketchy, but it worked. It's okay that you got caught in that hole. You were behind a wall. So that beam, were you trying to... It was to left if you were trying to beam stun this Cassie. And then it wasn't left enough if you were trying to go through this doorway. So those are the two angles I would have gone for. It looks like you wanted to go for this one, but it released a bit too fast. So that just didn't go anywhere again. That's fine.
Stay blessed.
Okay, when you guys are fighting around this area when they're trying to push, I would keep a lookout for anyone who tries to push on the right side. Like, you did good right there against the Andy who tried to push on the left. Like, you kept your distance, you shot him. Did you dash back? I can't remember. But you put some distance between you and him, so that was good. But you need to be looking to the right just in case. I think that one on there, and that was a mistake. Or, like, I think you didn't mean it to be on there. So there's actually no... Oh no, it's fine. Okay, so here, I don't think there's any real reason for you to be as forward as you are. And Andy is just missing shots on you, so I think you're just lucky. That beam, again, is not... It's two to the right because they're both backing out. It's a right. Even if they stood still, you would have hit nothing. Yeah, so either aim it here, but again, the fadeaway beams where you can't really follow up on them, this is like mid to long range at this point. They're not gonna get that much value. You don't have to beam just because you have it. You're also really fucking forward right here. Holy shit. Chill. You're just tanking Cassie shots because you're running the super tanky Furia build, but there's no point, there's no reason to, in case Cassie can hit her shots one day. So if you actually had a beam, if you hadn't tossed it earlier and you had a beam, I would have tossed it. By the way, that beam, just go through doorways, right? You want to beam through chokes as much as you possibly can. because you know they're gonna go there. You want a beam where you know that they have to go, and you know this Dinar really wants to go through this doorway, so why go left of it? She's not going backwards, and even if she is, if you toss that beam, it's kind of useless. Anyways, so if you had it, wasted that beam there. The fact that the ROM ran at you, so as soon as, like, after you get dashed at by him and he stops running, he's right there. If you hit the beam, that's a free stun. He can't do anything about it, and the fact that 4 of you are looking at him, I don't know if he's going to die right away, but there's a good chance that he might die. But your beam was on cooldown, so... That's a good beam. Because that just confirmed a kill. So this game, you should have... The only people you really struggled with were Rom and Andro. They were the only 2 people who ever dived you. Rom is the easiest thing in this world to hit and stun. After he dashes, he is slow. He's like super fucking molasses slow. Andy, like you can time certain things. Like some Andys really like to dash at you, in which case it's actually really easy to stun them with a beam because they get too close. That beam, again, totally wasted. Okay, so some games, as a support, if you got dove before at the beginning of the round, next round you might not want to dismount right away. You also will want to check where they came from the last time and make sure that they're not coming from there again. So you did neither of those 2 things. So you dismounted right away and you dismounted on the side that they choose to come from, the right side. And I don't think you actually, you might check that they're there, but you're not. Okay, so you do check, which is good, but you know that they're pushing from the right, but then you completely turn your back on that side. They're still there, so I wouldn't have done that. I know you want to heal the con, but you can't heal the con if you're dead. So what I would have done is, first of all, I would have gone left. I would not have dismounted so early, and I would not have dismounted on the right. I mean, you obviously you would have to dismount if someone's taking damage and you're like, oh shit, I need to save them. I can't just stay on my mount forever, but that wasn't the case. So even if you're here, at this point, you know that they're on the right and you're still standing here, at least back out into like, so that your exit plan is to go through this tunnel in case you need to, or to go through this tunnel. You know what I mean? You're just taking shots and you're just fucked. I guess Andy was on the left. It wasn't that safe anyways. But you could have maybe known that if you were on your mount and you came over and you're like, oh shit, there's people here. So then you might have just played, again, through, my mouse is off the screen, played like in this tunnel or something. If they're just gonna pinch you guys from both sides, at least back out. I don't know.
Enemy killing spree.
Step into the light.
That beam wasn't that bad, but it also wasn't that good. I would have saved it because you already took some shots at him and you dashed back. That was both good. And when you dashed back, you were pretty safe behind... I think my mouse has just been on the wrong screen, sorry. Anyways, you're pretty safe behind this rock. He would have to dash at you like he just did to catch you. In which case, like I said, when Andros dashed at you, beaming them is super easy. They just panic and typically run into them. So if you hadn't thrown it when he was here and thrown it instead when he was dashing, you definitely would have caught him. You also could have ulted, and I think that might have been worth it. because your barrack was still on point at the time. Most of your team was alive, I think. You could also have chosen to ult around here as well. Again, your barrack is still on point. You just ulted. You guys had cleaned up Cassie and Andy, who were overextended. If you ult, first of all, you give yourself movement speed. You can get closer to point because you have to dismount so early. You can also give movement speed, obviously extra damage, to Maeve and Victor. And that might have made the difference.
Show them no mercy.
Like, he ults after, that's fine. That's a good beam. Yeah, so you actually choose to ult that like 5 seconds after I said to, which is fine. I would have done it a little bit earlier. The idea of that beam was very good. I'm not sure you knew exactly where he was, so that was probably just a guess. I think you guys won that point fight, not because you guys played it well necessarily, but because, again, the other team DPS overextended and got picked, and Barrack did a really good job holding down point in the meantime. That beam is good. It went right at Rom in the doorway. You are really taking a lot of shots from Cassie in life. You should reconsider. You were very, very, very focused on the right side. So yes, during pushes on this map, contesting high ground is very important, but you know that there's 2 flank routes here on the left, and you just have to be careful. Anytime you're a healer and you are like the leftmost or the rightmost, you have to be very, very, very sure that you're safe there, and that if you're not sure, you have to keep watching that the other team isn't going to push you on that side. You know what I mean? Like, if you're kind of like, if Victor, for example, was playing more here, like more over here than you were, then you don't have to be as paranoid about it, although you should still be watching, because again, there's 2 different routes. But the fact that you didn't turn your head at all to this side is not good. That beam, you should have landed 100%. Let's see that again. I mean, it happens. Sometimes you miss those, but I feel like you missed it quite badly. Okay, yeah. So his momentum is completely to the left. He even turns his head to look at the left side. And he also wasn't really looking at you when you let this beam go. It's just one of those things where, you, again, think about it for a half a second before you release it. Think about, is it going left? Is it going right? He's this close to you. It's really hard to miss these. And it's like it's a missed opportunity. I think he cleaned him up anyways, but it's just harder. You guys made it a harder fight. And in the meantime, Victor died because Inara walked at you. That was a good beam on Inara. That was a close beam. Didn't miss it. Good. Nice kill there. You're typing something. So when you get here, obviously what you have to pay attention to is this side in front of you in this tunnel, and obviously, oops, mouse off the screen again. And then obviously they can come all the way around and go onto the left side too. So at all times you should be aware of where they could be attacking from and make sure that you're safe there. And if you're not, make sure that you can easily get to a safe place and know how you're gonna get there. Like this, there's this rock. Yeah, you know what rock I'm talking about, right? Like the one over here. That's a good place to hide behind. Okay, that's a really good beam, because even though it didn't work out, but like your barrack died, but it doesn't mean it's not a good beam, because you saved, if he wasn't like completely about to die already. You would have saved his life. That's good that you backed up. That beam went nowhere. I don't know who you were aiming at. I can't tell if it was meant to be at Andy or I think there's a ROM here. Unclear. You can hide behind that rock that you're right next to, actually. At this point, especially. Hiding in here, not the best idea because they could just walk through here and you don't tend to look here. That was another wasted beam, I think. I don't think you knew where you wanted it to go. So keep backing up. Good. You keep tanking Cassie shots that she keeps missing.
30 seconds remaining.
You really don't have to be quite as forward. If you don't play quite as forward, you get a better view of the entire map, obviously. You're still tanking Cassie shots. I can't even speak properly. You're tanking Cassie shots. That was just a good ROM ult. You keep backing out. You know Andy's there. So that was good. Okay. That was in slow-mo and you still missed. Think about it.
Capture point spawning in 15.
Oh, okay, hold on. Alright, what do you do this time? First thing you do again, dismount and throw a beam. It's not gonna hit anyone. If it does, it's not gonna have an impact. Though, like you aim them half a map, half an objective away, they can so very easily just walk out of it. Think about that. Okay, so I see the idea where you wanted to ult early because you didn't do that last few times and you're probably thinking, let me just try it, it might be a good idea. Totally fine and fair. You don't need to actually be on point to ult. I like where you started behind point. Really, unless it's really safe, I wouldn't be this far up on point. Again, one of those times when you were very, very, very focused on this angle and knowing what was happening here. Because all the action, all the like main action was here. Barrack ulted, Anar ulted. You want to beam this way, all your heals are going this way. But you had no idea what was going on this flank or this flank. Like you just didn't look. You have to just look. So that was a good app. That beam is very meh. This is all actually okay here. Not sure where that beam was going. I would have saved it. Okay, so this ROM runs at you. You get displaced. He is obviously still somewhere here. You don't even look at him. That's bizarre. That's like really strange to me. Clearly he wants to kill you and he took a good chunk of your health. You should at least look at him, see where he is, get the fuck away. Yeah. Did you know he was there, like right there, or was that a very lucky beam? Because it looked like you did like a flick beam, but you didn't really know where he was. Even if you knew exactly where he was without looking, I still would have gotten out. I would have been somewhere like, I don't know exactly where he was. That's the problem. He was somewhere here. So given that he just dashed and he wants to sit here, you can back out this side and then just play a ring around the rosy with him around this little thing. You could still stun him. Stunning through walls, actually OP. Like that would have been a pretty cool play.
Enemy rampage. Uh-oh. Double.
Useless beam. I would save that because you might get pushed. Like now. And maybe this gets to feel free. Well, whatever. nice kills I made. Useless beams. If you want to spam beams, at least do it through chokes, like through here. Don't toss them like down the middle of the point where no one is and no one probably will go. There's no reason they can't just sidestep it. So spam them through here, here. You can spam them through the far right as well. So you know where Cassie is, and you just, I would have ulted like 2 seconds earlier when you flicked your head over to see where the Cassie was. I wouldn't I wouldn't bet on the fact that she can't hit her shots consistently, or that you're tanky enough to survive all of them, because she still took half your health. I would have just ulted as soon as I saw her, and then use the movement from your ult, the momentum from your ult, to go here and hide behind here.
No mercy.
I think it's kind of risky that you started out that ult well, and then you ended up on the right side where she is. I think it's just risky, because she can even, I don't think she has an angle on you here, but you, like right now, but she easily could. And also, she just killed Vixer, who was behind you guys. She could easily just dodge roll into you and close the distance very fast.
Stay blessed.
Like, holy shit, that beam, not useful. Save your beams for when you get pushed, right? Don't use them on the off chance that they may or may not hit someone. That beam was actually not bad. It would have been better if it hit, but the idea of it was okay. I would have... Okay, that's weird, because the original direction you aimed it was at the Andy through this choke. That would have been so much better, I think, my opinion. I think it did hit the Inara, but she had her right click up. Oh! That's a good Inara ult. At the same time, I would have, when you see Andy in your face, my knee-jerk reaction would have been to dash backwards anyways, and that might have gotten you out of her ult range, but that was a good ult by her.
Step into the light and perish.
You're often very staggered from your tanks, which was a big problem. That's not a bad beam. So that beam, even though you sent it down point, roughly in the same place where you always send it down, the difference for that one, what makes that one good, is because everyone happened to be here, and because Barrack ulted, so they kind of sort of had to be here in a way. Like, there was a reason for them to be there, if that makes sense. Okay, those are nice shots on Inara. I would have aimed that beam to the left, to the choke, or just not beam. You're fucked. That was a really good beam. That's a good peel from the team. At that point, yeah, you're just kind of in a bad position because of the Andy. It's probably okay for you to die here. I know you got stuck here. I get stuck on these stupid stairs too. You could have ulted. It wouldn't have been the worst ult in the world to save yourself, or you could have been like, who cares, and died.
Double.
Yeah. Or you could have gone up the stairs where Andy died. And BD either way. Not sure where that beam wanted to go. Okay, so you're paying a lot of attention to the left side, which is great. You're not paying any attention whatsoever to the right side, like 0. Just because they're left does not mean they can't also be right. I don't know if they end up going right, but you should have been watching. I think the Andy just kind of walked up to you. Surprised he didn't die. Okay, I don't like that beam either. Who were you trying to beam? There was no one there. Either aim aim it at the ROM or go with the right. Like either you have a beam target or you don't have a specific target necessarily, and you just spam it down the choke. I wouldn't send it anywhere else really. Also here, I have no idea why you're so far forward.
Stay blessed.
You're taking so much damage. You just tank shots you don't have to tank. And because you're not playing super safe on top of that, that Andy killed you from the right side. And on my screen, he's not here because you didn't look at the right side at all. So again, you did a really good job checking this side, but you did a horrible job checking the right side at all. That's actually a really good Andy ult. That's not a bad beam. It stunned him, but I'm not sure if there was any possible follow-up. I would have... yeah, I don't know. At all wouldn't have mattered. Okay, I think I nitpicked your beams a lot, but just as... hopefully it was kind of helpful to just tell you for each beam, like, very simply, you have only so many choices of where good beams could be. Like, obviously you don't need every single beam to be like this massive beam that stuns like 5 people. It's not gonna happen. But there are like easier and harder beams to throw. You also need to be more consistent about landing beams on people right next to you. You had some really good ones, especially the one at the end on Andy when he was diving you. And then positionally, that's the other point I wanted to make. You don't have to dismount right away at the beginning unless someone's like taking a boatload of damage and you really need to heal them. Sometimes it's better to stay on your mount a little bit longer just to feel out where the other team is. And then please check your flanks. Sometimes you don't check any, but sometimes you check one side and not the other side. Just keep checking every potential side you could get pushed on and try to position accordingly. Do not keep tanking shots even though you can afford to because you're running that build, but it's just not a very safe gameplay and it might bite you in the ass.